What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of our weekly show here on sportsbed.io, discussing all the NFL primetime games and maybe a little sneaky game or two in the middle of those primetime games as well. He is Lou Finicaro. You can follow him at Gamblou, that's Gamblou on Twitter, or go to gamblou.com to check out more of what he does in the sports betting world. My name is Chris Farley at Farley Bets on X as well. Okay, Lou, let's talk about week 6 very quickly. You gave out a play here on the show. I know you're not going to run away from it. I had a play on the Jaguars as well. What the hell happened to those Jacksonville Jaguars in London?
There's tremendous risk in actually betting on the team that makes you vomit when you go tell your boys at the water cooler that you're taking them. They don't always hit. I mean, I'm trying to hit 57, 58% of my bets, which means 42% of the time I'm going to look like a schmuck. So I might as well look like a schmuck with Jacksonville as opposed to looking like a schmuck with Dallas or some of the other losers. Had some winners. Jacksonville didn't cover, but that's week 6. I'm not going anywhere. I want the listeners to see that everybody loses. How do we handle the loss? How do we come back? What's the release going to be this week? I'm going to plug away. I would say if I go 0-5 on these things, would I take a week off? Yeah, but I'm not a quitter, and so I'm going to come right back. We're going to do this every week. However, the competitive side of me says, let's come up with a sharper pick this week. It's something that I've already released myself, so when we get there, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I say it all the time. This is the only industry, right, where you can just work really, really, really hard and you could still be wrong about 47%, 48% of the time if you're lucky, right? I mean, to make a profit in this sport, or in this industry, it's somewhere between that 52 and 53% ATS mark that you have to hit. But we're still wrong, and we're wrong a lot. And we were wrong about the Jaguars, apparently. I had a teaser on the Jaguars, Lewis, my teaser of the week with the Tampa Bay Bucs. Obviously, Tampa Bay went well. I teased them before that line switched, but Jacksonville couldn't even cover the teaser. So that was pretty disappointing. Of course, the favorites had a lot of fortune last week. I think this is the first time since the merger that they went 9-0 against the spread, road favorites. Very, very interesting there. I know the books got smashed by those Bills last night as well, as the Jets couldn't turn up and get it done. But here we are. It's week 7. We're here to talk about some primetime games. And I have a special segment today that I'm going to introduce. It's the Hate Your Money segment, brought to you by Lou Finicaro, where we're going to discuss a very gross team to bet on and what Lou is thinking about in that game. But first, let's talk about Thursday night football. We got the Denver Broncos with Sean Payton visiting his former team there in New Orleans, taking on the Saints. Saints now have lost 4 straight games. They are very banged up, and they are now plus 1.5 at home. This opened at minus 2.5 on the Saints. They were the favorite, but of course, with all their injuries and probably how good the Denver defense has played in most of their games this year, Denver is getting the nod as Sean Payton comes back to town. A lot of narratives to think about in this one, Lou. That Saints injury list is very long. At the same time, Taysom Hill he's a questionable right now. He could play, and he's a big difference maker for that team. He's been limited in practice this week, but they're hoping that he can at least suit up. They are still at home, and they've lost 4 straight games. So a desperate moments here for the Saints organization against their former coach. What do you think about this one, Lou? Broncos and Saints.
I really look at this game as a template of one that why would you bet it? I mean, it's Thursday. You're going to depending what happens today, you're going to possibly have a doubleheader in playoff baseball. If you need to bet this game so bad that then good luck to you. Too many unknowns with New Orleans, and the quarterback, we know little to nothing about him. We know Denver's defense is what sticks out here. Here's what I will tell you: 35% of the bets are on the under. The under hasn't moved from 37, and 62% of the money is on the under. That means whoever's betting that under is laying pretty large bets, because very few bets, but large bets, are making the percentages sway that way. I tend to think that this is all about an under game. And because the number hasn't moved, it's still 37. those willing to invest in that under aren't paying any penalty like they will be on some of the games we'll talk about later.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was actually considering the over in this game, and it sounds like that would be the opposite direction of where the big money is going. But this is my thought on that, and this I totally agree, Lou. This is an easy game to stay away from for the most part. The total is just interesting to me for two reasons. One, Spencer Rattler was actually pretty good. I mean, if you go back and watch that film, quarters 1 through 3, good decision making. He could scramble with the ball. He made some really nice throws. But in the fourth quarter, they were trailing by a lot. He forced some things, bad decisions. It's his first NFL game, right? And he's going to play in his second on Thursday. But I'm not completely sold that he's a bad quarterback. I think that he can run the offense just fine. Taysom Hill would certainly help them out. And how about that Saints defense, Lou? At this point, anyone saying that the Saints have an elite defense is a bit of propaganda. I mean, they're 32nd in yards allowed per game, and they continue to be extremely banged up on that side of the ball. So Denver's offense has a chance to put up some points against a defense that hasn't done much, and it is Sean Payton coming to town who knows Dennis Allen better than anybody. So I'm staying away from this game, but if I'm listeners out there, I'm not getting too crazy about that under either, because I think there's some logic that this game could actually have a few more points than you might think.
That's a perfect game for us to disagree on. I just don't know how New Orleans will score, and Denver 27th ranked rush, 26th ranked D. I don't care if you got a high school team out there. Denver ain't scoring on you with that quarterback and what's going on in that offense. There's no explosion on the team, and the explosion on New Orleans, Shaheed, is dinged up and may not play this week. So this is one we'll agree to disagree on. That makes great radio, and we'll allow the listeners to decide which way they want to go on this game that I would suggest that you don't play.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's good to have some disagreement on this show. That's for sure. Okay, let's move on to the You Gotta Hate Your Money segment of the week, because I just really want to hear what you have to say about this game, Lou. It's the Cincinnati Bengals, who eked by last week and got a win against the Giants. That really should have been a 3-point win. But the guy, Chase Brown, I think his name is, he runs the ball in. Okay, it's a 10-point win for the Bengals. But the Giants had chances to win that game. They kept it close for the entirety of the game. And now they got a road game again at Cleveland against the Cleveland Browns team, who is just, right, I mean, everyone in the media loves to hate on this team. They love to hate on Deshaun Watson and the fact that he keeps playing because of his prior charges and everything that's so gross and ugly about that whole situation. Here's the thing. Just the contrarian in me just wants to look at the Browns for a moment, because this is a lot of points for a home team who, again, couldn't be more desperate. And you look at the last two seasons, both early in the season, they played Cincinnati at Cleveland. And I know this is a different Cleveland Browns team. I mean, they're very banged up as well. But they get Nick Chubb back in week 7. He is slated to at least put in some time for their lineup. And the Browns have beat the Cincinnati Bengals straight off the past 2 years at home. So there's just something in there, right? It's like you get these matchups and you can't really explain it, but one team just has an edge, like Tampa Bay over Philly. They just have an edge over the other team for some reason in certain circumstances. So I'm considering hating my money and betting on the Cleveland Browns, Lou. What say you about this disgusting game between the Bengals and Browns?
I'd say that you're learning well. You've been able to discern a game that fits every criteria that I have here. A week ago, Cincinnati's 3.5. Now they're 5.5. And actually, Cleveland stood up and played well last week. And what I'll say to you is I used Cleveland last week. And for me, that was the time to hit them. Big 8.5 against Philly. Take that money, profit, and run. I'm surely not looking at it this week, but to look at that game, it's Cleveland or pass, and you hit it right on the head. Why would I say that? Yeah, Cincinnati's offense sticks out here. It's the elite platoon of the 4, meaning each team's O&D. The issue is there's division hatred here, and they could have me at quarterback or Brian Sipe at quarterback. It don't matter, because there's hatred between these two teams. They're in the same state, and you're going to get a tight brawl of a game, I would expect. So I like where you're going with it. The only thing to do would be to be patient here, because that number is probably not going to change. If you could get to Cleveland at home in 6, that would surely be a buy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am seeing a 6 right now, a bookmaker. Of course, I think that's a book over here in the States. Not sure if they have it over there in the UK, but yeah, just keep on shopping around if you want to take that risk with me and bet ugly on the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, bookmaker is far away places. I think most anyone with a VPN can get to them.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure, but good to know. Yes, I mean they're already out of 6. Most other places are out of 5.5.
Then I'll
So
then I'll hurry up and say then I'll be patient and see if I can get to 6.5. I've got a large Italian banza, meaning stomach, and I can eat plenty, so I'll eat the 6.5 if I can get it.
gotcha. Yeah, I do have a question for you too, Lou, because you said something there very interesting. You said last week you thought was the spot to take the Cleveland Browns. And I hear that phrase from successful sports bettors all the time. Like it seems like it's almost an intangible that you can't explain. Like you knew that was the spot, or and of course none of us know anything before a game happens, but you obviously took the risk because you thought that was the spot to bet on Cleveland. Why was last week the spot? Is it just the number?
That's really such a great question, and I have a super answer for it. And that is the whole month of July, I sit down. I'm the first one to get Warren Sharp's 550-page study, and I make a complete and total team-by-team analysis based on Warren Sharp's work. Now, it takes me hours to go through 500 pages that I use 28% of the info, but it's worth me digging through. And I situate myself, each team, game by game, the whole year, so that week by week, all I do, I'm a surgeon. I come in, I put my gloves on, and I look at the situation. Here's week 8. No, wait a minute. We're on week 7, right? Yeah. Here's week 7 this week, but I work a week ahead. I'm on week 8. And today, when I get off with you, the look-ahead lines at the Westgate will be posted. So I will put those down, and you can see I already have the situations and the spots highlighted for next week. I know what I'm looking at because I did that research in July, and that's the answer to the question. The spot comes down to situational handicapping, and that really is built with a strong foundation in the 4 weeks of July, along with a little Saratoga horse racing.
Yeah, and I mean, you probably knew that the Eagles were going to be a little inflated there too, right? Coming off a bye.
The Eagles are they're weak. They've got strife in the locker room. They don't like the coach. There's stuff going on, and it took them. And so we think that Cleveland looks good because they played with the Eagles last week. Rather, I think you look that the Phillies got trouble because they played with Cleveland last week.
Yeah, 100%. And I know in the past, I said 3 years ago, you see the Giants thing behind me, but I called out Nick Sirianni's issues years ago when he was walking through the tunnel after games, saying, "How about them Eagles?" Like he doesn't act like a coach. He's kind of immature, and now we're kind of really seeing that boil over. Which, as a Giants fan, I love, but I think people thought I was being biased about that. I'm not being. I'm just calling it like I see it. I hope the Eagles don't have a better coach because then they're going to be even more dangerous. But okay, we proceed now with Week 7. The Sunday night football game is going to include the New York Jets, who just got off that loss on Monday night. Couldn't figure it out against the Bills. They are -1.5 on the road at Pittsburgh. And we got a lot to talk about in this game too, Lou, because we could see Russell Wilson. In fact, I think we are going to see Russell Wilson start. He's taking first-team reps there for the Steelers, taking Justin Fields' place, who just didn't play very well last week and is starting to devolve a little bit. And on the Jets side, apparently Aaron Rodgers is all smiles after a loss because he has Devontae Adams now behind him, who just got signed to the New York Jets. So whatever that means to you, Lou, two teams who are defensively oriented and are struggling a little bit on offense. I thought the Jets had ample opportunities, 3 missed field goals to pull that off last night, and maybe we're having a different conversation. But what profiles to be a very defensive game, total in this one is 38 to 38.5. What do you got on the Steelers and Jets?
Yeah, this line has flipped. So the look ahead a week ago was Pittsburgh -1. Now, flash forward after what we've seen through the last week till last night. Now the Jets are 1. what did the Jets do? They brought Devontae Adams in, and so he's worth 2 points to the line against a Pittsburgh team. That is illogical to me. I don't really get it. And so I'm going to have to watch what happens here. I can tell you that the Jets are coming in 6 days off Monday Night Football. Pittsburgh's coming in 8 days. Advantage Pittsburgh. They're going to be a couple days fresher. That means something. 33% of the bets and 60% of the money, however, are on the Jets. So early guys that bet, and that tends to be wise guys, have been looking at the Jets. And so you can see they took the one, they took the pick, and now the Jets are given one. So that explains the line move. 45% of the bets, but 90% of the money is on the under 37.5. I completely categorically agree with that. Pittsburgh wants to win 11-9, and the Jets want to win 12-8. And so you're going to have a low-scoring game here. After last week's over parade and as many favorites as came, I look for a little reaction this week. I think the public might be a little fat and sassy, and they may walk right into a buzzsaw.
No, I totally agree. I think we're going to see plenty of underdogs covered this week. And in this game, I agree too. I mean, I'll tell you what, Lou, I would love to see a 2, even better yet, a 2.5 on the Pittsburgh Steelers at home. That would qualify as a ideal Wong teaser if I'm correct, in a game that should be very defensive and right. I mean, very low scoring. So you're getting a lot of value there on that 8 or 8.5 if it gets up to that line. I mean, I like it at plus 7.5 now for a teaser, but it could be even better. And the money is going in the Jets' direction, so probably better to wait. But totally agree with your thoughts on the Steelers in that.
And if I may interject,
sure,
we're just 2 or 3 weeks away yet, but in 2 or 3 weeks, a lot of these Tuesdays will be spent talking about what the weather's going to be in the weekend. I mean, I'm a literal meteorologist come November and December. And you can really get ahead of totals if you're aware of what the weather is. And it's not hard to understand that if it's a blizzard in Chicago on Thursday, that by Saturday in Cleveland and New York and Philly, it's going to be ugly. So the weather becomes really critical. I've been watching it for a few weeks. All there is to watch for now is wind. There is none really this week. So not to talk about it too much, but we will be talking more and more about it.
Yeah, I was hoping for some weather conditions to disrupt the Cleveland game as well. It's supposed to be 64 and sunny and light wind, which stinks because usually Cleveland can get really gross.
Well, it'll change real quick, but it's going to be beautiful all through the Northeast in your part of the country this weekend, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can't wait till the weather comes. I think games are even more fun at that point. Okay, we have 2 Monday Night Football games to discuss as well. We have the Baltimore Ravens. We'll cover this one first, visiting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay off of a 51-point game there last Sunday. And of course, Baltimore, right, continues to impress. They did cover the 6.5 last week if you got that against Washington in a 7-point win. Jaden Daniels continues to impress too, but it wasn't enough to stop Baltimore, who went up and down the field against Washington's defense. Total in this one is 48 to 48.5 for what I'm seeing on my screen. What do you think, Lou, about the Ravens and Bucs?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really good game. These are 2 playoff teams. Baltimore is real. Look ahead line, Baltimore 4.5, now 3.5. I tend to agree with that. Baltimore is surely solid, but they're on the road, and Tampa Bay looked good last week, and that's not a bad team. They're very balanced, 10th on offense, 11th on defense. Baltimore's offense is great. Their defense, 18th against the pass. I see Tampa Bay maybe having some success in the air against that Baltimore secondary. Tampa Bay had 2 road games before this game. This is a home game for them. Then they have 2 more on the road. So this is an important big game for Tampa Bay. 38% of the bets are on Tampa at 3.5. 59% of the money is on Tampa at 3.5. And I'll make Tampa Bay plus the 3.5 at home the release for me for this week. I've already bet it. I've already released it. I believe in it. And I'm giving my best to the listeners to see if we can't maybe find ourselves a nice little winner here.
Yeah, let me ask you another quick question, Lou. When you talk about the money percentages as far as number of bets and the amount of money going on each side, isn't that information proprietary? Like, how do we know where the bets are going and the money and all? Where do you glean such information?
That's great. That's great to know. If you want to monitor line movement, you get on some of the different line systems, Don Best, Spanky, Wager Talk, whatever. If you want to monitor the money, because I'm a VSIN employee, we get access to DraftKings percentages, UFC, tennis, badminton, whatever they got percentages on. I can see those. It's critical for me to be able to use those in my handicapping process. I'm also on BetMGM and Caesars email list. They send me their bet percentages as well via email that I can monitor through the week.
Yeah, someday when I buy a robot, Lou, the robot's going to tell me first thing in the morning what are the bet percentages on each game. I want to. That's the first thing I want to know from the robot. Which that's around the corner, by the way.
The only one I want to know is I want to know the ones where there's a minority of bets, but a majority of money. Under
Yes.
50 percentage in the bets and over 50 percentage. If you can get a wide one, if you can get 90%, 10% of the bets are on the Jamaican fighter and 90% of the money is on the Jamaican fighter, then doggone it, looks like we're going to be investing in the Jamaican fighter.
Right, because that suggests that the public is the only side going against that, right? And that the sharp,
That's correct.
yeah, it's the sharp betting community that is able to put down the big money, right? So that makes sense.
And yes, usually a minority of positions with bigger percentage of money indicates larger bets. And if you're monitoring the NFL on a Monday or a Tuesday, that makes sense because there's large bets are being made by syndicates and wise guys on Monday and Tuesday in the NFL, not your average executive who's busy making money so he can bet on the weekend.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm learning a lot on this show. I hope our audience is too. This is just a really good conversation because I still have a lot of questions. I've been in this game 4 or 5 years. Lou's been in it a little bit longer than me, so hopefully everybody enjoys. Maybe we can figure out a way to get questions sent our way too, Lou, in future episodes.
If anybody has them, that's great. I'm no authority, but I've been drug around the block by the mail cart 3 or 4 times. I got some bruises and bumps, so I've learned the hard way on almost everything. I'm surely willing to share.
A lot of quotable phrases that Lou gives you every week too, which I enjoy. All right, last Monday night game and last game to discuss here on the show. And again, check us out every week here at sportsbet.io talking about these NFL primetime games. The LA Chargers take on the Arizona Cardinals at Arizona. Arizona coming off a very sleepy performance against the Packers. Packers looked really good in that game too. Chargers out of the bye dominated most of that game against the Broncos, and they are 2.5-point road favorites against the Arizona Cardinals, which is really interesting, Lou, because this Chargers team does look a lot better under Jim Harbaugh. I mean, they're more disciplined. Their defense is playing really well. Like, if anyone wonders now if Brandon Staley was a great coach for this team, we see what a real coach can do. So they are definitely improving. At the same time, do the Chargers, I'll just start with this question, Lou. Do the Chargers deserve a 2.5-point chalk spread on the road against a very feisty Arizona team who usually when they play down the week before, you see a lot better performance from them in the following week?
Well, I'm not so sure. A week ago, this line was picked, Chris. And
Yep.
so now they watched Arizona Duke all over their front of their shirt, and they watched the Chargers continue to play great D and solid football. I mean, Harbaugh has changed the culture. And yeah, Staley wasn't a very good coach, especially on the offensive side of the ball, but Harbaugh's defense is doing it all with Staley's guys. So Harbaugh's
Yep.
coaching them up, yeah, but the talent's there on that side of the ball.
Oh, yeah.
So I can't throw Staley so far under the bus. So this thing went from pick to 2.5, which means there's nothing but Charger money, baby. They're betting the Chargers hard. They're betting them now. And 70% of the bets are on the under, and 96% of the money is on the under. They just believe the Chargers are going to come in here and choke Arizona out. And I happen to think that's exactly what's going to happen. I can't see how Arizona will be able to score on the Charger defense. and the mediocre Charger offense can get a couple field goals off the 23 ranked Arizona defense. And I look for just a real ugly second Monday night game. You'll want to be watching Tampa, Baltimore, because Chargers and Arizona are going to be like watching paint dry.
Yeah, that might very well be the case. I know for me, I'm interested in Arizona possibly as a teaser leg, only because again, it's supposed to be anyway, a low scoring game. That's where we're seeing the money going as well. They are at home, and then you can get it past 3, 7, 8, or I'm sorry, 3, 6, and 7, right, and even 8 at this point. And Kyler Murray, for what it's worth, when he's done playing Call of Duty, every hour of the day, apparently outside of practice, that's a tough quarterback to prepare for, right? And on the other end, Lou, I do think that the Arizona Cardinals are due a little negative regression, and we're starting to see that, and the Chargers do bring it. But I'd be interested in a teaser leg there, and that's about it. Lou, I think before the show you did mention that you have an official play on the Baltimore Tampa Bay game. Did we give that out?
No, the official play was because we were talking about the Tampa game. I give the Tampa plus the 3.5 against Baltimore.
Okay. So that's official.
That's
Lou,
official. That's made. That's released, and I would, if you're nervous about it, viewers, watch it. You don't have to bet, everyone. Watch me for a few weeks, see if you can trust me, and if not, don't do it and laugh. And if I start to win, then if you jump in, don't shoot with one shot and then hit and run. If you're going to get in and run with me, because it's going to take 10 bets for me to go 6-4 or 7-3. As you can see, just one off last week, I'm a loser. This is a big game this week. Tampa plus 3.5.
Yeah, even 1 week, 1 month, even 1 year sometimes, right? You can't take small sample sizes from a pro bettor, right? And it's the long term, and we know that Lou wins long term. Usually I do too, although I'm having a very clunky start to the NFL season. I'm sure that that's gonna regress for me too as well, Lou. Well, Lou, as always, is a pleasure. A lot of great questions and back and forth on this show. So hopefully our audience has even more questions. You could always hit me up on X at Farley Bets. You can hit up Lou at Lou Fenicaro. That's at Gamblue on X as well, or check him out on gamblue.com. We hope everybody enjoyed the show again. Enjoy the Week 7 slate of action. It should be awesome as always, and good luck with your bets. See you next week.